The sirens were already screaming when I walked up that ridge. Below me, 135 luxury homes, built on the land my grandfather once plowed, were sinking under a wall of water. HOA officials were shouting, their private community turning into a lake. They said I was just a bitter old man, that I couldn't stop progress. But when you steal from nature, you don't win. I didn't swing a hammer. I didn't light a match. I just opened the dam and let justice flow. So before we begin, drop your country or city name in the comments. I'd love to see how far this message travels. And if you believe in justice over power, hit that like button and subscribe, because this channel stands for stories that speak truth to power. They call it Silver Ridge Estates now. But long before the billboards, the golf carts, and those steel gates, it was just my family's valley. My grandfather dammed this river with his own hands back in '62. He built it not for greed, but to feed the soil, water the cattle, and protect the town below from spring floods. The deed was clear, the boundary markers old but precise, every acre documented. Then came the HOA. Developers with perfect hair and crooked ethics, they promised a green community nestled by the water. What they really meant was my land. At first, I didn't notice. They inched in quietly, a fence here, a new road there. Then one morning, I found their workers tearing down my survey posts. When I confronted them, the foreman smirked. "You're trespassing, old man. This is private property now. Private. On my soil." I went to the county office, showed them maps, deeds, old satellite images. But the clerk wouldn't even meet my eyes. The HOA had friends in every department, inspectors, surveyors, even the zoning board chair. Every form I filed disappeared. Every appeal came back stamped denied. Weeks later, I drove past the valley and nearly lost my breath. Rows of identical white houses lined what used to be my grazing fields. 135 homes, built on top of my reservoir zone. They even blocked off the maintenance road to the dam and paved over my runoff channel. When I tried warning them about the risks, that the dam was old, and the drainage needed to stay open, the HOA president laughed. "We'll handle it, Mr. Carter. Maybe it's time you moved on. Let progress do its job." But progress doesn't mean stealing. And some things, you don't build over. Because nature remembers. And I was done watching quietly. The day they held their grand opening, the valley looked unrecognizable. There were balloons, banners, and a live band playing soft jazz beside what used to be my irrigation ditch. HOA executives in tailored suits shook hands with county officials, all smiling like they'd built something noble. Their new sign read, "Welcome to Silver Ridge, living above the rest." I stood by the fence line, the same one they claimed was theirs, and watched the governor cut the ribbon. The crowd clapped. No one even glanced at the man whose land made their dream community possible. That's when I knew the system wasn't broken, it was bought. I'd spent months fighting it the right way. Filed lawsuits, appeals, even hired a private surveyor who confirmed the homes sat squarely on my land. But every time the case reached a judge, it got reassigned or thrown out over procedural errors. The HOA's lawyers outnumbered mine 10-1. And every time I left the courthouse, I saw one of their people shaking hands with someone from the county. I was being erased, legally, quietly, efficiently. Then came the final insult. A notice on my door, trespassing fine, $15,000. Signed by the HOA itself. They claimed I'd entered private grounds, my own damn maintenance road. The same road I'd kept functional for 40 years. I went down there that evening, furious, just to see what they'd done. The new construction had covered my access path with concrete. They'd installed metal gates right where the flood channels used to run, redirecting the natural water flow into their neatly paved streets. I could hear the hum of their pumps. The valley that once drained freely now held back pressure, silent and visible, waiting. I met the HOA president there, Victor Hale. Perfect smile, polished shoes, no soul behind his eyes. "You don't understand," I told him. That dam was built for overflow control. You block it, and the next storm will tear through here. He laughed, actually laughed. Then we'll sue the storm, Mr. Carter. That laugh stuck with me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my desk, surrounded by old survey maps and engineering plans from my grandfather's era. Every line, every contour, every pressure point on that dam, I knew it all by heart. And for the first time, I realized something. They hadn't just stolen my land. They'd stolen my family's legacy. That valley was never meant to hold 135 homes. The soil was shallow, the bedrock fractured. The dam's safety depended on that runoff channel they'd buried under their driveways. I tried warning them, one last letter, certified mail, copies sent to the county and their insurance. I even filed a safety alert with the state water board. It was ignored. So I waited. The forecasts came in, a major storm approaching, the heaviest in 20 years. I stood by the waterline the night before it hit. Rain pelted my jacket as I looked at the spillway gates, rusted but still obedient to their maker. No tools, no sabotage, I just cleared the debris from the emergency outlet that they had ignored. If nature wanted her balance back, I wasn't going to stop her. I left that ridge at dawn. And when the clouds broke open, I knew the mountain would speak louder than any courtroom ever could. The storm rolled in slow, gray skies churning like something alive. By dusk, the first sheets of rain hit the ridge, turning dust to rivers. I parked my truck near the old maintenance shack and stepped out into the downpour, flashlight cutting through the mist. Every inch of that dam was built by my grandfather's hands, and now, by his grandson's patience, it would remind them what they'd ignored. I didn't break a single law. Didn't touch what wasn't mine. I simply cleared the blocked overflow gates, removed the concrete barriers they'd illegally poured, and let the structure breathe again, the way it was designed to. Down below, their streets filled with runoff. Their drainage pipes couldn't handle the surge. Lights flickered across Silver Ridge as power lines snapped under wind and water. And through the roar of the rain, I whispered, "You should have listened. Nature doesn't rush. But when she moves, she remembers who started it." By midnight, the sky had turned black as iron. Thunder rolled across the valley like a drumbeat of judgment. The dam's old spillway groaned under the surge, not from neglect, but from purpose. It was doing exactly what it was built to do, protect the mountain and punish the arrogance below. Down in Silver Ridge, flood alarms began to wail. Homeowners stumbled from their beds, clutching phones and children. Water licked at driveways, then poured through doors. The HOA's manicured lawns became rivers of mud. Streetlights sparked, transformers popped, each one echoing like a verdict. Victor Hale, the HOA president, was out there, shouting orders no one could follow. "Call the county. Call emergency services." But there was nothing to stop it now. The overflow gates had opened naturally, the way the engineers designed it decades ago. And from the ridge above, I watched. Rain plastered my jacket, the wind howling through the trees like applause. This wasn't revenge. It was restoration. "You built your empire on stolen ground," I said quietly. "Now the ground's just taking it back." Within minutes, the water swallowed the lower rows of houses. Cars bobbed like toys, fences collapsed, and the fancy community center, their pride and joy, broke apart under the current. I didn't cheer. I didn't smile. I just stood there, the same way a judge does when delivering a sentence. By dawn, the storm eased. The valley was silent again, except for the soft rush of water returning to its rightful path. The HOA's banners floated in the shallows, torn and meaningless. For the first time in years, I saw the mountain as it once was, wild, untamed, and free. Justice didn't come from a courtroom. It came from the earth itself. And nature never loses a case. When the sun rose, the valley looked different, washed clean. The news called it a natural disaster, but the investigation told another story. Reports showed the HOA had ignored flood warnings, falsified safety inspections, and built illegally across a protected spill zone. Insurance refused to cover a single home. The county dissolved the HOA within weeks. As for me, I never said a word. Didn't need to. My deed was still on record, untouched, undeniable. Now, I sit by the rebuilt dam, watching the water flow the way it was always meant to. The land is quiet again, free of concrete and greed. Sometimes justice doesn't shout. Sometimes it just flows.